There you have it.
Hi. Okay, so first of all, before I introduce my guest, that song, I started to cry because the rose with my niece Rosie and the rose I have on, it was like, seriously, that has to be your favorite song?
It's my favorite.
I don't have waterproof mascara, so I'm sitting here going like, you know, like don't cry, don't cry. That was absolutely beautiful, and it touched me in a different way. So.
Can we talk about Rosie's Foundation for a little bit? Because when we first met you, we were on a gig. Oh my gosh, many, many years ago, and you came up and you said to me, "Hi, I'm Dawn," and there was like one of like a million Dawns at this gig, and we were producing a show, and you talked about this amazing jewelry line, which happened to be Sparkle of Life.
Right.
And this piece that I wear every single day I had a dream about, and it happened to have been your logo. And I texted you one morning, I said, "Do you have your necklace in a logo?" And you're like, "What?" I said, "This is the dream I had. Can you make this piece for me?" And you did, and I wear it every single day.
Yeah, that's
But
an old necklace.
it's old, but every time I take it off, I can't, because chips and everything means part of the magic is going to people who need it, is how I feel. But Rosie's Foundation, the Rosie Foundation, is what you created, were proceeds of your jewelry sales, and now this new line of necklace, this new rose, is supporting this. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Rosie Foundation is in honor of my niece, Rosie, who, when she was 11 years old, was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And she fought for about a little over 2 years and lost her battle in 2003. And I'm going to get emotional because this is like, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Kennedy.
Rosie passed 20 years ago. My brother passed 2 weeks ago, yesterday. So it's a very emotional time for me. But what I do, thank you. What I do is we donate 10% of every sale back to the Rosie Foundation. We also partner with other charities as well, you know, and give back. So we've actually raised, I believe it's $13,000 for charity just for the Rosie Foundation. Now, Sparkle of Life raised over $128,000, and my hope with the rose is that we're going to give even more, because now we're in the realm of fine jewelry, and it's 18 karat gold, and we're going to do diamonds, and yeah. So I'm excited about all of it, you know, and see how God works that all out. So,
Which is why the segment is called Faith Stories.
there you go. Excuse me. So I brought on my guest, Todd Kalura, and I met him through Pastor Jerry. And it was as a result of the TMJ that I suffer from. So Jerry said, you know, just reach out to him and, you know, see if he can help you. So when I invited him on, before we go into what he does, I want him to share his faith walk and how he came to know the Lord. So Todd, go for it, man.
First off, I just want to thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's see. First off, I grew up in a Jewish household. You know, I was bar mitzvahed. You know, I had, you know, I went to Hebrew school, grew up in this area, Boca Raton, went to Hebrew school, bar mitzvahed, but I think I was doing it more for my grandmother, and so she can have her friends at the party and everything.
Well, a party's a good thing.
Listen, I think as a young kid, I made more money that day. I mean, it was it was great. But you know, I really didn't have like a sense of faith. You know, like I went to Hebrew school, but I didn't really learn, you know, much, you know, or maybe because I was young, I didn't pay attention.
I think a lot of times that's what happens, because I was raised in a Catholic house, and it was like all I remember is kneeling, sitting, standing, kneeling, stealing. That was a faux pas. So I get that. I do. I think in any household, children are like that. They don't really grasp.
And I'll tell you, like after I was bar mitzvahed, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to Hebrew school. You know, that was it. Fast forward, you know, like I was that guy that made fun of people who went to church. You know, it's kind of pointing at them, and you know, to think
they're
now,
hypocrites.
Like fast forward, and now I'm the Bible thumper. You know, it's like I just want to go back to the people that always tried to preach the gospel to me and say, I'm saved. You know, like, I mean, you know, like you planted the seed. You know, and in particular remember a scenario. You know, I played professional baseball, and I was 19 years old. It was like at the high rookie ball level, playing in Elizabethton, Tennessee, and I was a catcher, so I wasn't playing that game. So I'm sitting in the bullpen, and there's a pitcher that just started preaching the gospel. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that was called preaching the gospel. You know, he was talking about who Jesus was, and I just remember, well, what if we were raised by monkeys? You know, it's like I was that guy.
You were an antagonist.
I was the devil's advocate. You know? And you know, I just think, you know, that was like that was a seed planter, and then over the years, you know, God just placed very powerful people, important people in my life, and I just remember it was Easter of 2010. I called my best friend up and be like, "Hey, buddy, can I go to church with you?" And this is a guy who's always asking me to go to church with him, and it was a life-changing experience for me. And then 2 months after that, it was Father's Day, and I got saved on Father's Day. And then 2 years after that, I got baptized on Father's Day. And so,
when you say saved, what do you mean by that? I mean, I know not everybody knows that.
I mean, you know, it's one thing to believe in God. You know, it's one thing I always say, oh yeah, I believe in God. But, you know, it's like to understand, you know, what that meant. I mean, it was just such a journey, you know, of, you know, people, you know, how, you know, God placed those people in my life, but to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I mean, that's what I live for.
Yeah.
You know, now, am I perfect? No.
No, we all fall very short every day.
Every single
Guilty.
day. Every single day, you know, like I you know, to say that, you know, I'm not a sinner, but I know that He has forgiven me of my sins, and that's why He died for us. And, you know, and I can just hope, you know, like through my work, you know, I have a good platform to reach people. You know, I work with, you know, believe it or not, in this area, you know, I have a lot of Jewish clientele, and when they find out, you know, I grew up in a Jewish household, they're like, wait, but you wear a cross. And I'm just like,
yeah, wait a minute.
And it's like, well, it doesn't mean I'm not Jewish. You know,
That's the thing. It's like we are all from Jewish descent. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. That's the Bible.
I mean, like,
and it's the Old Testament and the New Testament. The difference between Jews and Christians, we share the Old Testament. There's so much I'm getting the chills. There's so much commonality with the Jews and the Christians. As Christians, we have such a huge love for people of the Jewish faith and for Israel. Yeah. And so we need to cling to that and cling to each other, right? So,
but do you think it's about being perfect, or do you think being humanitarian, is just about being the best we can be and striving to be a little bit better the next day?
I don't think it's about being perfect at all.
Can't be perfect.
I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, I know I try to show people all the time, you know, love and grace and mercy. And that's all we can do. Yes, I mean, we want to be loving and caring, but I mean, that's the one thing I tell everyone. I mean, just because I've accepted Jesus doesn't mean that I'm this
you're not going to do anything
person
wrong
that walks on water, because only Jesus did that.
Right.
So,
trust me. Okay.
Yeah, we heard some of your background last week, so we know where you're coming from.
You don't know all the stories, let me just tell you.
But Dawn's had said so many great things, and Dawn's walked this journey, unfortunately, of pain with her jaw and TMJ, and you would never know by looking at her, and she's tried the gamut from everything.
Yeah.
And she says you're really working miracles on helping her.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. Yeah. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't ever say miracle. You know, like what I do specifically just looks at something that I don't think there's many that look at, and that's how well the muscles of your body work. And for so long, and sitting down with her and hearing her story about what she's been through, I mean, the first thing I think she said to me, she's like, I'm skeptical of anyone that says they can help me. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I can help you, but I know that I have a
Which
tool.
I appreciated, because I can tell you, every person that I have gone to see, every doctor, anybody, everything, oh, I can totally help you. Oh, well, I can totally help you. And they take my money, and I'm no better off than the day that I gave him my money.
Because what happens is you're in pain for so long, and your body recognizes pain. And even if it's not in pain, the muscles are still inflamed. And your body, your neural pathways in your brain just know pain or whatever it is you happen to be feeling
Sure.
for all those years. So it's not only reducing the inflammation, it's rewiring your brain to say, wow, I don't feel pain. We had someone in here last week yesterday, and he's totally ADHD.
Oh, really?
And we gave him one of Eva's patches, and he's sitting where JC's sitting, and he's quiet for 30 minutes. This man has never been quiet for 30 minutes since we've known him for how many years? And he says, it's not that I don't know, I feel calmer, but my brain is saying, don't be calm, because you're not calm. You're supposed to be talking and being this and hyper, but I'm not. So he's sitting there having this internal struggle of rewiring his brain, and I think pain is a lot like that, because our body, not that we want to be, but it's what our bodies recognize.
Well, and like you said, it's been such a long journey that I only know it, right? And so with Todd, what he does, and I'm going to explain what he does, and then he's going to go into more depth, because I look at it as muscle activation therapy, because the strength, my muscles aren't as strong as they should be, and what he does, it's just strange what he does, but it's so like non-invasive, you know, because I was telling him, I had a massage therapist who went inside my mouth and tried to massage the tension. And I was crying the whole time. It was the most painful, excruciating thing that I did. So his procedures are totally like not that. So I want you to explain what you do, and you can use me as your example since I'm sitting here.
Specifically, you know, let's backtracking. You know, I got my degree in exercise physiology, and it was a stepping stone for me to be introduced to something I did for the bulk of my career. It's called muscle activation techniques. When I got into this, like I was sitting in a lecture, and hence I was in a lot of hip pain. You know, I was a 23-year-old kid at the time, you know, just could barely walk. A guy I worked for says to me, hey, does anyone want to go into New York City and listen to a seminar on muscle activation techniques? At the time, I was living in New Jersey. And I'm like, if you're paying for it, I'll go. I need the CEUs. So I went. I'm listening to this guy speak, and he kept saying tightness and pain are secondary to muscular weakness. And I just kept playing that in my head. I'm like, tightness and pain are secondary to weakness. And during a break, I'm like, you got to show me how this works, because everyone that I have been to try to correct any problem is focusing on my tightness and my pain. Long story short, he starts looking at a problematic area in my left shoulder based on, you know, I was in a car accident months before, get something in my neck and shoulder stronger. I stood up, my hip pain was gone. I'm like, I don't care what you just did, I got to learn how this works. And so the last 20 years has been just like a quest for knowledge, and it's just introduced me to so much more about how the muscular system functions and fires. So what I'm looking at with Dawn is really trying to boot up her muscular system to try to get it to fire and function more efficiently. So if this jaw stuff is related to muscle inefficiency, I don't see why this stuff won't subside and go away. So to say it's a miracle, the miracle is, you know, how God designed us. Right. You know, he gave us this body, and the Bible, like in, I believe it's First Corinthians 12, talks about, you know, how, you know, the body is one, you know, it's like, and nothing, like you really can't separate the foot from the hand and the eye from, you know, another part of the body. And we always hear that, you know, like everything in the body connects, but no one looks at it like that way.
No, everybody looks at the symptom, and that's exactly what we talked about is, you know, they want to address the symptom, not the cause of the symptom. And
are you working on the muscles in her neck? Are you working on the
Not
muscles
yet.
in her neck?
Right now, her neck is so stressed out. The last place I want to start investing time is at that area, because there is a lot of stress. Now, it's not to say there isn't a problem there, but to be honest, like where I started working with her was down at her feet.
That's what she had said.
Knowing that she's had some trauma, you know, because how I design like a whole plan of action is based not only on her pain. Her pain is a byproduct of possibly what we're looking at, but what is her history? And there's an extensive health history, injury history that has to be accounted for, that and things, injuries, past injuries that may not have been addressed. And so that's where I'm starting to vest into an area of the body where I know it's not too stressed out, let's see what happens. Is there a connection between foot and what's going on?
Yeah.
And then as we start to boot up the integrity of how her system is able to perform, then I will start venturing to more of that symptomatic area.
I gotta tell you, I love the aspect that he's figuring out the puzzle before he solves it. So
Right.
He's looking at your history. He's looking at. It's just really interesting.
I'll tell you, to me, that's one of the problems I've always said that the exercise industry has, is that there's a lost art of assessing. You know, it's like you sign a waiver,
Right.
you know, and just say, hey, you know, and you start working out, but it's not taking into account the history. And if you know, it's like when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to get stronger. Okay, great. What are we getting stronger? You know, it's like, where do we go? You know, so we can't just sit here and say, well, let's just start jumping up and down and doing all this stuff. There is a process that has to be put in place. And as we start seeing where her problems are, and we start, you know, from a low level, because from a sensitivity standpoint, she can't handle a lot of stress right now.
Yeah.
And so
tell them your scale. Okay, so least sensitive 8, most sensitive 1. What do you think I am?
1?
Yep.
Yeah, like the way I figure this out, you know, like the system I put in place, you know, with the health history and the assessment process, based on, you know, like we can say age, gender, health history, the way your body is, like the nutritional status, body habitus, number of surgeries, number of injuries, the list goes on. And there's a point scale. And, you know, after I tally all the points, there's a scale of 1 to 8 that I have, and 1 meaning I got to be very careful with what we do here. 8 meaning I can do whatever I want with you. She's at a 1, you know, so we got to work very conservatively as to how we progress this. And, you know, like as she says, and I'm glad I didn't have to say this to her, you know, one of her questions she answered was, this didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm glad she said that, because, you know, as much as I want to say we're going to hit this and you're going to be good, sometimes it's not that easy. So, you know, there's going to be some time, you know, just like any exercise program. It's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And we're right at the beginning, you know, to hopefully giving her just a better understanding as to the why possibly behind
Right.
what's going on.
How long is the process to start with?
The way I work it, it's, you know, like I have like the assessment process. I sit down with her, go through the report of findings, and then
there's a lot of information that you have to like write down, and your memory.
yeah, and then
That's
once
funny.
once we get started, like I told her at the beginning, I want to work possibly, you know, at least 2 sessions a week for the first month. Let's start getting this, you know, the body working, the muscles working better, and then we'll reevaluate, and we'll go from there. But I mean, like with exercise, you know, you don't do it once and you're strong.
Little by little, step by step.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you wouldn't think like the first time he did the procedures on my feet, you wouldn't think you would get tired, but let me tell you something, I was so wiped out. And then the second session, the same thing. It was like, man, no, actually, after the first session, I was a little more awake, right? Was that it? See, I
Yeah,
can't
like
remember.
after we were done with the first session, you know, there was an energy level that
Yeah.
she had, you know, that was like, all right, this is great. We saw muscles contracting a lot better. You know, the system was more booted up, but I think you said 20 minutes after.
Oh, forget it. I was just like, okay, falling asleep, you know. It's really interesting. I mean, I just kind of...
And that's where, you know, like, and when we talk about, you know, it's like when she was telling me like the exercises that she's, before working with me, she's like, I do this, I do this, I do this. And it's like, I start thinking, well, what is all that stuff, you know, if what I'm doing is
All
causing
up
that,
here.
what is all the other stuff that she's doing on her own? What is that doing to her body? So what I'm trying to really
creates
do is,
more pain on
like,
top of the
Sure.
pain.
like I'm just trying to give her direction, you know, like
Yeah.
find these like muscle deficient, we'll say muscular weakness or deficient areas. Let's get them stronger. Let's see what happens. And, you know, like I wish I can say it's an exact science. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we may do something that gets her worse. But what that does, it gives us information, as to, how the body is responding, and, maybe we stay away from that area the next time and explore another area. So it's kind of like, I compare it to like a check engine light in your car. The check engine light goes on. It could be a number of things that's
Right.
causing it. I know the last time mine went on, it was because there was a crack in my gas cap. The check engine light is so far from the engine, from the gas cap, so it's, if I just covered the light up and said problem solved, I don't think you'd be too happy about that, so we're trying to diagnose, and I hate using the word diagnose, but trying to find problematic areas, get her working better. And if her, like I said, if her muscular system is playing any role with what's going on here, we're going to see some sort of a change. You
What's
had
the best
something
way for people
different
to
happen.
reach out to you, Todd?
Excuse
Best
me?
way for people to reach out to you? To get the information?
I would say just call my cell. It's
Okay.
561-789-6690. Email tmikeco33@hotmail.com.
Great.
And contact Dawn for any other questions that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And any
Interesting.
prayer request, just you can text me 954-309-2234. I love to pray for people, and I pray for you guys every day.
Thank you.
And just thank you. And next week we're going to have Pastor Jerry on. He's very excited, so
Wonderful.
that should be very interesting.
Interesting story. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Very
So
welcome.
many
Thank you
other
for having
questions
me.
I have for you. We got to go to commercial break, but I'm sure you got a whole lot of questions from your family saying, how
I
could
know. I
you, why
wanted
would
to
you?
delve
But
into that.
we can even
Dawn.
talk about that
Yeah.
during commercial break.
Yeah.
Thank you. Faith Stories with Dawn DeMarco book every Wednesday, so tune in weekly. We're going to take a commercial break, have some more amazing music with